I can't think really of a better way of doing it than by recording, because spelling and typing it just takes so long because I'm not happy with it, and then I'd start again, and my brain works quicker than my hand does. So the stories I'll give you will be by tape, and the story of the beginning of the DID was not long after, well, I'd say about a year after splitting up with my husband. I'd met this guy who had 3 boys, and he was a single parent, and we all got on really well. My children already knew their children because they played in the same areas, and so it was fun. And I'd had my moments, but still didn't know what was causing them. I mean, even when I split up with my husband, it took the Countess to come out, me not even knowing that she'd come out after a night out on the town with some friends, and realising that I was in a loveless marriage, and decided it was time I got out. But I personally was too scared. I hadn't built up that confidence that it's like, though she was there, she was only ever there to stick up for me in bank situations and going to see my mum or dad, or, she'd never been in anything that could be confrontational. So I'd never really thought how I was going to deal with this, and I had a sleepless night, and woke up about, I don't know, Chris was downstairs with the kids, must have been about 9 o'clock. But I just lay there, scared, because I knew that I had to do it today. And then it was such a strange feeling. It was like I was there, but I wasn't there. And it almost felt like I was gliding down the stairs and into the front room, and just stood there, motionless for a while. And I opened my mouth and words just came out of it. Not my words, but obviously the words of the Countess. And she just turned around and said, "I want a divorce. I want you to find yourself somewhere to live in the next 2 weeks, because if you don't, you'll find your bags on the front lawn. I don't want to be in this loveless marriage anymore. I want you to move out." And then went back upstairs, laid down, and I came out again, and I was shivering and shaking and crying. And he came upstairs, and he was came in the bedroom, and I just stared at the ceiling and ignored everything he said. And he was on his knees, and he was begging me to forgive him and to take him back. And I turned round, felt very rigid, and turned round and went, "Nope, I've said what I need to say. You had your chances, and this is it." And he did have his chances many a time in the past 2 years. I said, "If you don't do this, then it's over. If you don't do this, it's over. If you don't do that, it's over." And I suppose the Countess decided it was enough. And within 2 weeks, he had moved out. And like I said, within a year, I met this guy. His name was Stuart. And he was a handsome man, and never really thought nothing of his looks per se. Never even thought that he looked like my dad in any way, shape or form, but he was a nice guy. And one night we was laying in bed after, sleeping, and I was laying next to him with my head in the crook of his neck, my left hand tucked under and playing with the hairs on his chest, and my right hand just slowly caressing and stroking and playing with his balls and his penis, and never thought nothing of it. It was flaccid, and we were just talking about general chit chat, nothing great. It was so comfortable and felt just so right. And then, because he was circumcised, I was just running my finger around the rim of his bell end, and all of a sudden this thought came to me: it's really smooth. There's no ridges or bumps or anything on it. why am I thinking that? How would I know that, that it's wrong, or it doesn't feel the same as what? Who else have I stroked in this manner that would give me this comparison? And I laid there for ages, just rubbing my finger around, up and down and round the actual, shape of it, and thinking it's not crinkly, it's not ridged, it's soft. And so whose was ridged and whose was soft? And I turned around and looked up at him, and I saw my dad. It just was. It was him. Stuart had the same hair, the same morning growth, which my dad kept constantly. It wasn't just a morning growth, it was a full-time 24 shadow. And the chest and everything, it was just my dad. And I just let go really quickly and sat bolt upright, got off the bed, put my hands over my mouth and just stared at him. And he's going, "What's the matter? What's the matter?" And I was like, I can't talk, I just can't talk. And I went running down the stairs, and I grabbed my clothes, shoved them on quickly, ran downstairs, ran out the house. The kids were with their dad. His kids were all still in bed. And I just ran, didn't even know where to go, because Chris was staying at my house every weekend. It was easier for him to stay there rather than for me, the kids to stay at his, because he just had this one bed place. And I just sat in the woods just thinking about it, and it just all came flooding back. How I used to sit and lay in my dad's bed, and I used to lay inside of him, and I used to lay my head on his belly, and my left hand would play in his hairs, and my right hand would just play with his cock and balls like they were toys. Just, they were soft and malleable, and I saw nothing wrong in it. But now, as an adult, you're like, fuck. And it's like, why was he doing that? I just don't get it. And then I just had this breakdown, and I just kept crying and crying, and I didn't know what to do. And it was getting late, it was getting dark, and I ended up walking back to the house because it was time for me to go back anyway. And opened the door and ran straight upstairs to the bedroom. Chris came running up and said, "What's the matter?" And I kind of told him what was going on. And he said, "I'll make an appointment with the doctor, get this sorted out, So I made an appointment with the doctor, and the doctor made an appointment with the therapist. The therapist made an appointment with the psychotherapist, and that's how it all began. And then I saw Dr. Martin for, years, about 4 years, all in all. And during that time, Chris was saying, "Don't worry about the kids, I'll stay here, I'll look after them." And I stayed at Stuart's, but I kept myself to myself as much as possible because I kept having these little breakdowns. And I remember Chris coming over once, it was about 2 years into the therapy, and he asked me if I could I sign these forms regarding the house, because they know I'm living there, and just say that it's temporary. And I've told them that it's temporary, and so I signed it, and then I signed something else, and then I didn't know until the therapy was coming to not an end, but we were getting some progress with it, and I felt a lot better. And then I found out that I'd signed over the house and custody of the children to him. So when I said, I've come back, he's gone, "No, I live here now. I'm looking after the children. You sign the papers." I know nothing about it. So what could I do? I lived with Stuart, and I had the girls at weekends, and it was all legal. I was obviously in a mess. Stuart and I broke up, but I had enough money to put the deposit down on a flat, and I got a flat, and I moved into this flat up by the town. And the rest is another story. So yeah, that's the whole story, and it was traumatic, to say the least.